Welcome to Three Devs and a Maybe, the podcast series for beginner web developers and general web enthusiasts. Now, introducing your show hosts, Michael Budd, Fraser Hart, Lewis Caines, and Ed Mann.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Three Devs and a Maybe, and hopefully, depending on when this is released, I'm going to say Happy New Year, and then Ed's probably maybe look stupid and release this in March, but let's just go with it. Happy New Year, everyone.
I thought I was going to say, we are in the New Year, so you're alright.
We are in the New Year.
Yeah, we've hit 2016.
Yeah, but I just thought the way that sometimes these things go, this could be like
I do like messing you around, Mickey, you know, so... play evil games on the podcast releasing schedules.
Always yanking my chain. So I guess Happy New Year, Lou.
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New
Year all. Here we are again.
Yeah.
We're on 2016. We've now done 2013, 2014, 2015, and now we're in 2016. Wow. That's like 3 years.
I've done every year since 1983.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so how were people's New Year's and Christmases? I suppose we should probably say.
Yeah.
That was kind of a really undirected. That was a really unprofessional podcasting question. Yeah. Mickey, how was your New Year's and Christmas?
All right. Mine was pretty good, thank you. Yeah, fairly quiet affair. We'll say that I had most of the family around at ours Christmas Day, but that went well. And Toby's like.
This was your first Christmas then, having the whole family around yours.
Yeah.
Wow, how did that go?
It's our first Christmas in the house, to be honest with you. So
because technically last year you were living with your mum and dad's, and then you were kind of renovating this place.
Yeah.
Wow,
I don't think there was even ceilings in this place then. So first year in was really good. Toby's just a little bit too young, I think, to really get too excited about Christmas. But
I did see the picture of him waiting for Santa, putting the carrot and thing. I thought that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He is a legend.
I think that was mostly for me and Abby. I don't think he got much out of it. But
what, you could pretend to be a kid again? I think that you're allowed that. When you have a kid, you go through all that, the sleepless nights. You're allowed to now pretend to be a child again, I think.
Well, we did the whole putting the reindeer dust in the garden. I don't know if you... Yeah, so...
Do you have a chimney at your house?
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, right, yeah, because I'm just saying, because I've never had a chimney, but then I never really thought too much about Christmas like how the actual Santa came down. I just assumed he just kind of teleported through walls, because that's Santa what does.
I think if you watch that one with Tim, what's his name, to show you how it happens, like chimney magically appears.
Tim Allen.
Allen, yeah.
Oh, you mean Santa Claus, yeah. They released 3 of those films. That was insane that they really, yeah.
It's also worrying that I couldn't think what the title of the film was when it was.
It's got Santa in it. Could it be? No, it's not Santa Claus, no.
What's the movie about that Grinch called?
Oh, God, that's a tough one as well, isn't it?
Yeah,
and that elf one. There's one with elves in it. An elf?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I nearly said Tim Lovejoy instead of Tim Allen. That would have been a very different film, wouldn't it?
How are you doing, Lou, man? How was your Christmas and New Year's?
Santa Soccer. It was brilliant, thank you very much. Happy New Year to all listeners. I've been up to quite a lot, but not a lot. I suppose at the same time, I've had a nice break between Christmas and New Year. I have managed to nearly all avoid code. The only coding that I did do was finally getting off my backside and actually setting my website live.
Hey,
that's
nice one.
Out in the big wide world now, but it still doesn't feel finished. But it kind of, I just decided that my target was to get it live by the end of last year. And I woke up on New Year's Day, actually, one of the rare mornings through the Christmas holiday that I was actually at home, and thought, right, it's now or never.
Looks good though. Looks really good.
Well, thank you very much. I hope so. I'm quite pleased with it. I worked very hard over a lot of last year on bits and bobs, just doing a little bit at a time to get it to where it is. And yeah, I'm just glad
man.
I'm glad I have something live now. But
we'll put it in the show notes for sure, and let the audience decide as well.
Be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Audience. We have a nice audience, and to be honest, it is nice. So they can't really, slate it at all.
As it says on the homepage of the site, I don't claim to be a designer, but I try and dabble. So that's what I came up with anyway.
So did you get up to much programming stuff throughout the time, or was it clean break from the coding?
It was because it was getting a little bit busy up to New Year and a lot of other stuff going on, and we've got another house move coming up. The early part of this year, the proper house move to the place where we're all being well going to stay rather than rent.
And not have to deal with another house move, in the next 6 months after that, because I know you love house moving.
Oh, well, it's just something to pass the time when you've got nothing else to do. So, but yeah, so that's taken up a lot of the time. So I just wanted, to be honest, to have a bit of a break from the computer, and it was really hard. You get into a habit of just kind of going through the motions of getting up and just going and sitting at your computer and cracking on with stuff, and it was actually quite hard to snap myself out of it.
What did you kind of, you do in place of it then? Was it, no, I was going to say bowling, partly because I've got a bowling Clojure katas script up on my computer. So, have you, was it golf?
Is that the Laravel one? I think I've seen that.
Oh no,
bowling cat, or they use it. They do use it on.
Yeah, the bowling cat. Yeah, sorry, but I completely. I have like on my desktop. I cleaned up my desktop. That was one good thing I did this year, or the beginning of this year. And I put a bowling Clojure. I'm like bowling. I'm thinking no, that golf. So did you much golf over the Christmas period?
Nah, no golf. Oh, actually, I went to the driving range once, but no. Actually, I wanted to have a game yesterday, but everywhere's closed now because of all the rain. So.
Oh yeah, it's been a bit horrible, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's cool. No, I didn't really touch the computer in the whole break until yesterday when I thought, right, I want to get going with React again. So I started going through the tutorial that they've got on their site, the Facebook example, which I think Mike said this morning. He's been doing that one as well. So
yeah.
Cool. So how about you, Mickey? Did you get up to much programming?
Well, I've been doing a little bit of freelance, which for Mr. Keynes, in fact, actually. So
are we talking about? I didn't know if we were talking about that or not.
Yeah, well, sort of. Yeah, I'll come on to that, I guess. But yeah.
Let Mickey talk, and we just be.
The floor is yours.
Well, okay, so yeah, I've been doing. Yeah, I should start from the beginning, I guess. Really, so I can't really go into detail, but I am now sort of flying solo. Yeah. I wasn't planned, but here I am, and I'm freelance full time now. Well, certainly for the next 6 months anyway. I'm going to see how it goes, and then readdress things. But yeah, I'm lucky enough that Lou's hooked me up for a little bit of work, and sort of met with his boss, who was really nice. So I'm doing a bit of
lucky or unlucky.
We'll soon find out. But
you're now working with the stuff that I churn out, and I wouldn't wish that on anyone.
I think you're far too harsh on yourself. Like, I think your code's really good, but yeah. So yeah, so I was just doing like maybe a couple of hours every day, really, other than obviously like Christmas and the bank holidays. So yeah, just been doing a bit of that, but mainly like I say, Laravel stuff, and today I'm starting like a big 6-month project, which will be like my main sort of thing. I can't really say too much about that at the moment, I'm afraid. But
that's all right. I mean, the technologies you're going to be using, you like React and Postgres and Laravel.
That's it. Yeah, I am actually going to be using like very large data sets. It's the nature of this project. So I've kind of gone with Postgres because, from what I've read and spoken to you, I think it'll probably work better. So
I think it's the developers. It's the developers database. You will love it.
I don't really know much about Postgres, actually. I've heard of it, but I've never really looked at it. What is it? What's the difference with it then? What does it offer?
Well, I think Ed pretty much answers the question.
I mean, so
is it a NoSQL? Or?
No. Well. So that's the thing. It's kind of like everything. So it's a relational database like MySQL. And they both kind of came out in the mid-90s, kind of fighting it out, for database supremacy, these kind of things. And it's had a bit of a knock on it originally because of the fact that, because it was ACID, it was atomic and all that kind of thing. It was, in its essence, it kept your data safe, as opposed to some of the stuff that MySQL did. It was slower. Those have been addressed now, and it's funny because a lot of people just do the MySQL stack, and I think they do the MySQL stack because of the LAMP stuff, where it's I'll use MySQL for this and stuff, and really I never used my Postgres until I got into this job, and then they use this as the default database, and I've realized this is so much more awesome. And I say it's a developer database because it has things, so it is NoSQL as well. It has the idea of, it is pretty much like MongoDB inside of a relational database as well, because you're able to do JSON data types. You're able to do JSON-B, which is the format, JSON binary format, which allows good compression. Indexes, the indexing on it is insane. The partial indexing, the advanced indexes you can do. The actual full text index search I feel is better. than the one that comes out of the box within ODB and MySQL. And yeah, I think it's just a lot nicer. There's more data types. There's like, one of the ones I saw a lot of people reading, there's even an IP data type and things like this. And it is nicer. I feel it's a nicer database. And, for me, I'm surprised that it isn't more highly rated. I don't know why. I think it is because just the fact that MySQL's got the mind share, and because of the fact it was more performant at that time, that it kind of built up from there. But no, I'm glad, Mickey, you chose that choice. I'm glad you I mean, it's nice. This is the nice thing about having a new project. You can try new things.
That's it.
Yeah. What about if you've got an existing one where all of my stuff uses MySQL databases? So how easy would the migration across be to that? It
should be relatively easy because, I mean, the syntax, there's other things like the nice things about Postgres, there's like windowing functions and things like that, which are quite advanced SQL stuff. But, the thing is, obviously, everyone had these RMs and they have these abstractions over, and they feel, because the abstraction is great because it means then that I can then just switch out my data layer, my persistence layer. Like I can use MS SQL instead of MySQL or Postgres, but it doesn't really work like that. And it depends on if you've been using raw SQL queries. But you really should just be able to put it in, transport it over, export it. I know that, Mickey, you're having some fun now with exporting from another database into Postgres. And that's an interesting one, actually. I think there may be transformers or things such as those tools that allow you to do it. Because though every one of them uses SQL, and they may be like SQL 99 compliant and all these things, they all have their own little nuances and their little, tricks, little changes within the syntax of, the language SQL. So you have to be careful on that and how you use it. But it should be relatively easy because as long as you're using it, you're not going through a whole different paradigm. You're not going to NoSQL in that you are still doing relational stuff. So it should be
like you say. Easy. I mean, I'm working on, with Laravel, so like the difference for me at this stage really is change the database driver, and I'm there. Do you know what I mean? So it's really nice.
That's all that's required with Laravel, is it?
Well, yeah, because it uses PDO under the hood, doesn't it? So it is the same data. So the only time you're going to get kind of hiccups and things is when you start using raw SQL. And I still believe in raw SQL. I feel. You're hiding the abstractions of, obviously, OO concept's good, all these ideas of repositories and these high
you're being serious that you still believe in that. I thought you were supposed to not do that.
Oh no, with that, right? No. Well, this is the trouble because we've all gone down. I preached a lot, in the Coding 90 days of how awesome it was that you can build up these SQL abstractions and things. But how many times have you had a query that looks so ugly, that it looks so ugly in these query builder kind of things, and it's so much more advanced that you're like, look, I need to just go down to SQL for it.
Yeah.
It becomes not seen one until it started working with my stuff recently.
But it happens quite easily, actually, in these things. And, that's when just using SQL on its own is great. And I believe, you should know SQL and the abstractions, the OO abstractions over it, everything, it's great. But for the underlining, I do think, the implementation, if you just use SQL and then, you're then mapping those to objects, to main objects, etc. like that, it's fine. And I believe in that. I think it's a lot easier to understand. Than another layer. I think what happens is you then replace SQL with another layer on top of SQL that you then have to learn, if that makes sense, that you don't really want to. You should just use SQL. That's it. And it is funny because, I again, this is funny how it's the change of the change times to changing and all that, where you say like the last thing, preaching was, these things are great. Object relational mapping's great. SQL abstractions are great. Look how easy this is. But that happens to an extent, and then you go into these more advanced cases and you realize, actually, no, you're better off just using SQL. And things like Postgres, also another thing that I realized Postgres supports, actually, I've completely forgot, was recursive functions or recursive queries. Okay. So, you have, the typical pattern of I have a navigation that has parents and children. Yeah. So you can do, that is a query that you have to then recursively go through because you have to go to each child and stuff. And typically in like MySQL, you'd have to now do that in code, go through each of the parents, each of them, go get their children, etc. like that. In Postgres, you can actually write that in one SQL query that does a recursive query for it. I know that there are techniques and there's an algorithm that you can use that then allows you to do it in one query to actually build, to select all of the things, if you have a typical MySQL database. But this is an easier way of just being able to, so you could do recursive functions, recursive queries in Postgres, which is a great thing as well. So that's what I like about Postgres is it's got all these things inbuilt.
Yeah. Can I just say before I will stop hogging the mic in a second, but I just finishing off what I was saying, and I hope this doesn't sound like I'm like being too fussy, but in 6 months I hope to obviously sort of near enough finish this project. So if anyone who listens is aware of any sort of freelance work that will be available at that sort of time, then please let me know. Cause
absolutely, send it over to me.
No, don't. I'm going to have him snowed under. Don't worry.
Well, that'd be good. But
that's the thing, actually. How are you enjoying free? Because the thing about you, I mean, I don't know. The audience obviously know you through your on-air personality.
Sure.
But I mean, the thing is, ever since I've known you, you are kind of. You've wanted to do free, like you've wanted to be your own boss, I think.
Yeah.
I know that you like working with people, and I know that you enjoy that because obviously learning and bashing ideas of people, etc. But the idea, I think you are very good at being your own boss. So how have you enjoyed that? Are you enjoying that now? The legal kind of thing, the whole money, accounting, all this stuff going on?
That is the thing, really. There's a lot of admin, and if you're not careful, you could just spend all your time just doing admin. So you have to be very careful at that, I think. And the other thing is, I mean, stuff that we've talked about so many times, but just timing projects. Like, it's just so difficult to say, look, this project can take that amount of time. So I think
it's not a science, is it?
It's not.
It's more, and it's more of an art form, and it's more conceptual, and it's really hard to kind of gauge because you don't know. There are these randoms, this random thing that could happen. Real life could happen, or the project could, X, Y, and Z could happen in the project. So you can't be specific completely, but you have to try to give a good estimate, don't you?
Yeah, exactly that, really. And I think just be as honest as you possibly can. But yeah, no, I am enjoying it. Like I say, it wasn't planned at all. You're right. Yeah, once upon a time, it was my dream to sort of run my own business maybe one day. But that I suddenly hadn't really pursued that for many years. Like, that kind of just gone away. And I just ended up in a situation where it's kind of forced upon me, and did sort of apply for a couple of other jobs and interviewed for them. But, either the fit wasn't there for me or the fit wasn't there for them, but then this sort of opportunity came up, so it was too good to pass down, really. So I'll tell you how it goes after 6 months, really. And
that's awesome, though, dude.
Yeah, but how about you? We haven't discussed your Christmas and New Year, and
yeah, it's been good. I should say, firstly, no face planting. Last year, New Year's was A&E free. We didn't do any of that stuff. That was a nice thing. What have I else been doing? I've been really working. So saying like, oh, it's back to work and back to Monday stuff. I kind of was working last week, so it doesn't really feel. It just feels like I kind of carried on, but not too bad. It's fine. Kind of, I didn't really mind it. I'd say it's quite nice. I mean, I do like keeping in like having those long breaks off are great, but then you get back into it and you're like, whoa, what am I doing? It takes a little while for your brain to get kind of
like
back
Lou
in.
said.
That's it, absolutely. So what else have I been doing? So before, I've been doing a lot of refactoring of React stuff, because one of the things actually, so we've released this idea. So within the My Builder thing, we've got the trades, obviously tradesmen sign up. We have this idea now that we want to trade approval. So, they apply for a trade, they have a couple of questions to go through, set criteria, and then the administrators, trade approvers need to evaluate these evaluations. They need to assess these evaluations. And what we've done is we've done that in React. And on the back-end side, we've also used React Router. And it's been a new kind of concept for me to use React Router because at first, it kind of felt like it was going quite a lot against the Flux stuff, because you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh my God, it's like mutating this set in state in the component without going through this whole flow of Flux and things like that. But over time, the way that it was nice actually, because there was a couple of good resources that we were able to do in-house, or a couple of good projects in-house that kind of helped me gain more idea about this, and kind of going through this whole graph philosophy and taking advantage of promises. So essentially things like what you would do is you would use, now the source of truth comes from the URL as opposed to the Flux data stores, because the URL is the thing that would change. So, like saying that you're, trade one, now I know I'm in trade one based on the URL.
Yeah.
And trade one / evaluations, valuation one. So I'm on trade one and it's valuation one. These are unique IDs, And then what I need to be able to do is be able to fetch that stuff, and it needs to be able to change based on that, based on the, me changing the URL, not on the store stuff. So you dispatch all these calls and you could do some stuff. And we did that stuff with the previous project we did, but I don't think we did it the right way. And we all kind of thought, yeah, we can probably make this a little easier and a little better. And now what we've kind of, the way that Facebook do these things with their stores is they allow stores to have promise returns. So say, promise, did you know, guys, what promises are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, they're like a callback, like they're getting
an Ajax call or something like that.
That's it, then it's an asynchronous call, but it allows you then to stop doing these callback hell things, and it allows you, to asynchronously do this, but looking like it's synchronous code. So what, you can do then is say, okay, get me this ID from this store. So I want to get trade, from the trade store, get the ID of one. It will return you a promise that then it could fulfill at that time or fulfill in the future. Maybe, or it has that, ID, great. If it doesn't, it could internally go and fetch, the trade from, the external store, the external repository, external resource, and bring it back. And the client's none the wiser because it's just getting a return to promise any time. But that allows you then to have that indirection that allows you then to be able to start using these things a bit easier. I don't think I've explained it that well. I think one of the people I work with, Sten, he's going to write some good blog posts on this on the My Builder Tech blog. So that'd be quite nice to put in the show notes when it does happen. But I've been really enjoying that and React Router. And
you're using React Router and Symfony Router at the same time.
So React Router is just the front end router.
Yeah.
So it's Symfony stuff, just that is just the back end. Implementation doesn't really matter. That to us at the point of when we start using React and things like that, we don't really care about the fact we're using Symfony. It's just that could be a foreign resource to us. It's just an external API that we're accessing. Once it comes
if you're using an API that you've set through, I'm only asking this because I did an Angular project a little while ago, and I sort of came across this where I wanted to get data using an Angular controller.
Yeah.
So I was using the Angular router to kind of set that all up, and say it wanted to call like blog posts 1 or something like that. I still had to declare that as a Laravel route as well.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Because of the fact that. Yeah, because you're using then history, and then you start using the fact that you're using push state that makes it look like real URLs as opposed to just hashes that then So I have had to deal with that, and the fact that the roots are, that it can, optionally be either just trade approvals with the trade, or trade approvals with the trade and an evaluation. And then, all these roots then redirect, just link to this one page, that then is handled by React Router. So that is something you still do have to deal with.
Yeah.
But as long as you've got kind of a generic structure and, your URLs aren't crazy, you shouldn't be too bad, because there should be a lot of variables in there. Like, I don't care what the trade ID is. I can just put that as a variable, and I don't care what the evaluation is, put that as a variable. So that's that, the React stuff. And one other thing actually with that, and this is probably something you two may actually be interested in now, especially with doing a lot more React and Node, well, not Node, but kind of, JavaScript stuff and using NPM. So in the Composer world and stuff and PHP world, we're quite lucky with composer.lock files. So essentially, you do a Composer install, you do like say you've got a fresh Composer.json file, you do a Composer install, and then it does a Composer lock file, which is pretty much a snapshot of the exact versions of things you've got in your vendor directory. Because, say like in your Composer file, unless you especially specify, I want this version of something, it can be, I want at least version 1.5, of something, until up to, because you do semantic versioning, up to 2. So, within those, within that boundary of 1.6, 1.5 to 2.0, you give me any one of those. That's great, because technically it should change, but it's also nice when you do deployments to have the exact version that you've been testing on. So with a Composer lock file, that does that, because it says, no, even though you've asked for 1.5 or 1. Whatever, you actually installed on the vendor, I've installed vendor, I've installed 1.6. This is a snapshot. This is the hash. This is the one I'm going to be using, and download when I go to another project. Maybe you download it, you do a Composer install. It will say, oh yeah, you mean you want this one. You don't get that in NPM out of the box, and essentially you may do, I don't know exactly, but the way that I've had to fix that is using something called npm shrinkwrap, which is a function, which is a method on top of npm. So it's inbuilt already, but you just have to do it. So you do your npm install, it will then do the same exact thing a fresh composer.json would do without a lock file, which would be, go and find me any version that matches at least this. That's great. Again, I would now say, all right, I want to deploy this, but I want to make sure that when I deploy this, I'm getting that exact version, because there have been some issues I've had with React Router and History at the moment with some of the semantic versioning they did, and that really did balls it up. So I want to say shrink wrap, and you do npm shrink wrap, and it will then get all it'll go into your vendors file or your package file directory and say, look, these are the exact ones I want, and it will just then again do the same thing as a composer.lock file. So you ended up with a package.json and an npm shrinkwrap.json file. And yeah, so that is a really good kind of thing that I haven't seen before. So I would definitely recommend, when you're doing these things and when you're committing these changes, update you include a shrink wrap file, which is just funny. And then what else I'm doing is Clojure stuff, actually. So at the beginning of kind of throughout the Christmas time, I was after a little bit of time off to relax and stuff, and I actually do stupidly, I thought it'd be quite nice. Well, my relaxing, I typically can relax without doing computing stuff, but this time I was like, actually it'd be really interesting to learn something completely different. I had the Joy of Clojure book, the first edition of it, and I've started reading that, and I'm about probably halfway, 3/4 of the way through that now, and I'm loving it. And I've done a couple of blog posts on it, kind of playing around with Clojure and Lisp dialect and things like that, and it's awesome. I really enjoy it. Really different, and it's challenging me, like kind of like kind of what's going on and things like that, and I really enjoy that. And so that's about it really from me.
That's very cool.
I started playing with Browser Sync. I don't know if you guys have ever used that.
Is that the is it like
Live reload type thing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's unbelievably cool, but on your mobile as well, so you can.
Oh wow!
You basically you can use it with a Gulp task, which is in my case I do, and you get it running. And it kind of generates a new URL, like a localhost.3000 that still, if you've set a different base URL, it still detects that if you just got to give it the right instruction. And then, you put it on your phone or on your laptop or whatever you're using, and they synchronize at the same time. So then,
awesome. The machine still need to be on? So it's almost like just using that as a host server machine, like
pretty much, yeah.
Box. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I've used it for, making some responsive versions of sites that I've been doing recently, because it's so much easier than to have to continually keep picking your phone up and refreshing there and then refreshing everywhere else. Whereas all I'm doing now is I'm saving any changes to like my CSS files, and they're just auto updating straight away.
So does it do then the whole live reload?
Live reload, yeah.
Wow.
It does it's absolutely incredible.
That's insane.
The best thing about it is if I scroll on my mobile screen, the desktop screen will scroll at the same time.
That's weird.
I highly recommend everyone that listens to this to have a look at Browser Sync. It's probably the coolest thing that I found in the whole of last year, and I only found it in the last 2 weeks, but it's instantly gone into everything that I do now.
That's cool. Awesome. Yeah, definitely put that in show notes. That's it, because that is one of the problems we have, isn't it? Where trying to develop and test on all these devices, and then getting like say I've got a development version on my machine working, that's fine, but I need to be able to access it on other machines, such as say mobiles and things.
Exactly.
So solves that. That's awesome.
When you get it off and running, it basically tells you what URL to use, and then you start using it on your device, and it all just hooks up and it all just works. I've no idea how it works. It just does.
That's cool, man.
That's very cool.
It's really, really cool.
While we're on the topic of plugging things, can I just put one in very quickly?
Have you? Can I just one quick question? Have you actually used this? Just asking, because there's been a couple of people who have said that maybe you maybe mentioned things that you've never used. I'm not that guy. I know I'm not that guy.
What a horrible allegation! I can't believe it.
Fraser, unbelievable.
Yeah, he's not here. It's Fraser's fault.
I have used it.
Good.
Yeah, but actually, I'm not.
Is this my CMS? Yes.
No, but I definitely would recommend that. But I don't know if I've already plugged this, so just stop me if I have. But have I talked about wave invoicing on? I know I've spoken to you guys about it.
No, that's what I was kind of thinking you were going to bring up, actually, because I know how much you loved it when you were talking about the freelance stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know how many freelancers listen to our show, but it is wave invoicing. It's absolutely brilliant. It's completely free. I think they monetize it with ads and stuff, but to be honest, I can't even remember seeing an ad. But anyway, it's free.
Are they one of these startups that are hoping to get bought by? You hope they don't. You don't want them to go, do you? That
is my worry. Yeah, because once you're in, you're kind of committed, I guess. But anyway, you can put up all your receipts. It's got a really cool feature where you basically take a picture of your receipt on your phone, and then you email it to this address at waveinvoicing.com. Obviously, it pairs it up with your email address, and instantly adds the receipt to your list of receipts, which is cool enough in itself. But
is it ORC as well?
I'll see what OCR. I can't remember.
OCR, yes, I think. Yep, sorry, yep.
Yeah, it is.
It actually does that.
So
Wow.
it reads in like the retailer, and it reads in the amount, and it puts it all in there for you. And like so far, I think I've uploaded 3, and it's got the amount and name completely correct every single time.
So are you just trying to test it? You're just waiting for more receipts so you can then just start,
I want to slate them when it goes wrong. But, but no, it's so good. And obviously you have to be on top of everything when you're freelancing in terms of your tax and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely superb. Brilliant. I don't know what the alternatives are out there, to be fair, but that got recommended to me, and yeah, brilliant. So definitely check it out if anyone's doing that.
Nice.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. But,
no, not all, man. No, it's
cool.
fine. I was going to ask, actually, have any of you ever done the FizzBuzz co-kata? Or it's like a test, kind of coding challenge?
No, I haven't. As one of my New Year's resolution is to do more katas.
Yeah, so, well, this one's actually a really good one to start off with, because it is, I think FizzBuzz is actually a child's kind of testing thing for like in the real world outside of computing. It has like a couple of like, I think, conditions that you have to do that then, helps teach them things. But anyway, it helps with coding as well, because essentially it's one of these not really jokes, but I think people actually really use it as a test to see if people actually know the base understanding of coding, like with conditionals and things like that. And essentially the thing is you have to print out the first 100 numbers, so 1 to 100, sorry, and you have to replace. So instead of so you print out, if it's a mod 3, so if it's divisible by 3, you print off fizz. If it's divisible by 5, you print out buzz, and if it's divisible by 3 or 5, you then and 5, sorry, you print out FizzBuzz. So it's one of these very simple kind of just tests, or very simple kind of computations kind of things. And it's great because I did that with my Clojure stuff, and I was able to kind of come up with a couple of different examples. I really enjoy doing that with the new languages, that kind of having something that you already know, and that it's like, okay, well, how can I do this in different ways and using different kind of ideas? And I thought I'd really learn a language doing that way. So I definitely recommend, say like Lou, definitely pick up some more katas, like the bowling kata is a good one to do with TDD style. I found also that it's quite nice because when you've done it, you can then actually online, people post a lot of videos of themselves doing it. And you get to see different styles of how people do things, and I feel it's nice because it's great seeing the end product of like, this is my test suite, this is my code, but I want to know how you got there. And it's great where you have these like YouTube videos where people are going through them. So I'll send that some to you actually. The kind of thought process, how they tackle a problem, because that's really where TDD comes, and I think that's where people get stuck a bit, because it's not like just this is the code and this is the test suite. It's like, well, how did you come to this problem? Solve. There's the iterations in between, and I really enjoy doing that with katas.
I've just Googled it, and it says FizzBuzz is a fairly common screening question to help sniff out non-programmers during the interview process.
There you go. Boom. So, that's a great one. It's a nice one. Yeah, because, it's just a very simple conditional kind of, you iterate over the, a range of numbers and just replace
I suppose the challenge isn't doing it, it's how you do it.
It's great because it means you can explore with different things, and that's why I like with the language, like, FizzBuzz, relatively easy to do, but like saying Clojure, I have kind of, very rudimentary knowledge now, Clojure, where it's like, oh, great, I can now start looking into this and things like that. So, no, it's a lot of fun.
Can I just say as well, actually, on that note, I think I told you, Ed, I don't know if I told you, Lou, but I went for an interview a little while, maybe a month ago, and turns out the guy listened to our show, which was a little bit scary, and he had really done his homework on me. But he was genuinely really, really nice guy, and really, really intelligent. I'm afraid to say he caught me out on quite a few things, actually. And but yeah, he was really, really good. But I had a 3-hour interview, and I had like an hour to do some code, and then was quizzed on it for 2 hours. But I thought, because he asked me like, how would you describe your knowledge of JavaScript? And I was like, yeah, I'm all right. I know what I'm doing. Turns out, yeah. Not really, not compared to like what they were doing. So, yeah, but
was it like ES215 questions and stuff like that, or was it what sort of questions?
No, it wasn't even that, but I mean, it was just like simple questions. Like, obviously, you got like the different ways. We've discussed this before, like initializing objects in JavaScript, and so he started asking me what the differences were between them, and I was like, syntax, and but obviously, like one, I think you inherit a lot more. So
Yeah,
you
the
think
nuance,
you're
Or
starting
like
with a blank,
prototypes and stuff.
exactly. So you think you're starting off with a blank object, but actually you've
Yeah.
got a load of gunk in there.
I
Whereas
think,
if you do it another way, you've
because
got
I think if you do like just the open curly braces,
Yeah.
closed curly braces, that inherits from the object prototype, as opposed
Correct.
to if you did object.create and then
Yeah.
pass null or something, it would be
Yeah.
like, no, I don't have anything in this. You don't have like two strings and things like that.
yeah.
That's sneaky questions.
Yeah, but I don't know where I was going with that. But actually, whilst I didn't hear back, it was.
So is it a plea on the podcast that if you're listening to
I'm
this,
saying
still-
if you're listening, no, I'm doing other stuff now. But actually, I'm surprised I didn't hear that. I wonder if you tried calling me. I didn't answer. I don't know, but
I
yeah,
would love
really
if it was
nice
your fault. It would be great. It's like he's
Probably.
trying desperately, and you're just like, I didn't hear you.
Probably is. But I guess my point in the little story is interviews, even if you don't get the job, I think can be a really valuable experience.
Well, it's that kind of external look at code, isn't it? Again, it's that evaluating code. Like, see, because I know that you two must feel this. You know, I mean, Lou, specific. You know, like, when now like Mickey's actually, you know, coming to look in your code base and things. You know, you have to explain things, and maybe you can get like feedback on it and things like that, and it's great because it allows you then to really improve. Because the only way of improving, you feel you've done a good job. Maybe you can iterate on it yourself, and change it to, a place where you feel okay. This is in quotes the best I could do at this problem with this problem. Here's the solution. But then someone can come along and completely saying, you go, I didn't think of that, and it's great.
Yeah.
I mean that is the beauty of kind of this like coding, sharing, social side.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to have a catch up later this afternoon, actually, aren't we?
Yeah, and then you're going to grill me on my code.
You can tell me what you really think. I've got a whole bunch of JavaScript questions for you as well. So, I haven't. Just joking.
Can I actually one thing actually? A good friend of the show, Jimmy Burrell, our good friend, he came on the podcast. Must be a couple of months back actually. He at the beginning of December, and I'm really sorry it's taken this long to kind of give the shout out, but he actually released his first F# project. And it was really humbling actually, because he said, one of the reasons why he was kind of got into the F# and looking into that stuff was it was the podcast that we did with Stephen Proctor. And it was nice because it's essentially a Color Lover, Color Lover website, the API where you've got the different, different type, you can have like the nice colors that are compatible together.
Yeah.
He has a Slack for it. Like there's a Slack channel that they have in his company that what it does is it pulls down colors. It then does it brings it in like from the API. It will then create like a nice little palette from it and then post it into their Slack channel. And I thought it was really interesting and it's great. I mean, it's nice because I've never looked at any F# code, so it was nice to kind of go through it and have a look into it. But I'm glad that you enjoyed like looking in the functional side and it's these projects like that really are the nice kind of starters into exploring these things, where it's like, okay, well, how would I do this? I could do this in imperative in my day-to-day coding language, programming language of choice, whatever, relatively easy. But it's like, okay, well, how do I do it in a different paradigm and a completely different language? And I think that's the great thing about like this, and I'll put it in the show notes, this blog post, but it was really interesting looking at the code. And it's really cool that, he felt like, the podcast we did with Steve and Proctor was, kind of helped him along there. And it's nice to bring, the functional stuff.
Yeah.
Well done. I wasn't on that one, so kudos to you guys.
Yeah, I think I was very silent on that one. But kudos to Ed.
Kudos to Stephen Proctor for actually coming on the show, I think.
Yeah, true, absolutely.
Actually, talking about podcasts, there's one new podcast, and I don't know if I recommended it to you, Lou, already. It's called JavaScript Air.
Oh, yes, actually, I do think I remember.
Yeah, it's a Google Hangout podcast where a lot from the Egghead.io, Dan Abramov, the guy behind Redux, who came on the show a couple of months back, or a month back or so, he did a series on Egghead.io, and actually I'll put that in the show notes as well. His Redux one, really recommend that, really awesome. And the guys there, they've kind of collected a lot of good people who are in the JavaScript world, like Carl Simpson and things like that, and also Brian Lavstoff, who did like the kind of it was like hardcore functional programming stuff, and they've kind of started a podcast where they talk about JavaScript. The first one was talking with Brandon Ike, which was amazing, the creator of JavaScript, and they've moved on from there where they've kind of talking about learning JavaScript, how to learn that now in today's age, kind of where we are now. Babel, the compiler there, and there's one now, there's a mutable JavaScript, and thinking about kind of mutable data structures, and I haven't listened to that one yet, but plan to do that today, or end of play today, and I really recommend it. Really interesting JavaScript podcast. I can't get enough of podcasts, the more podcasts the better, because it means, we've got more resources, and it's great that, the kind of barrier to entry for podcast recording is kind of going down, which I think is even better because of things like Google Hangout, where you can just release it. I think, you know, so that's me. I've just thought I'd bring that up. The good podcast. So, do you guys listen to any other podcasts? Actually,
I've started listening to Jeffrey Way's new little Laracast snippet that he does. That's good.
Oh yeah, how are you enjoying that? Because I know that
it's really good. It's not like in-depth techie stuff. It's just more kind of observations of little things that have occurred over the course of his career, and like the first website he had that went wrong, and just general musings.
Like personal reflection, kind of. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of podcasts I think I find more entertaining, because obviously you can talk about code, but if you're not seeing code and stuff, it's not always as easy to kind of relate to. But this is more just kind of general kind of chat.
No, absolutely. That's really cool. And it's nice to have like humans behind the code, you know, where we are, you know, people, I think we all critique ourselves too heavily on, you know, like, oh, I don't know this, don't know that person knows this, that, and that, they're more clever than me, and etc. like that. And really, it's like, when we're all the same, and we all really have had the same problems.
Well, it's good to hear occasionally just about like the general doing the job, apart from like a technical discussion on something that you're doing, you know, just the overall process of being a developer day to day, you know.
Yeah. I think, like, to answer your question, Ed, I used to feel quite bad to say that I haven't listened to one in ages, but I probably will do now, actually, after this.
Full Stack Radio is always the one I go back to.
Very good. They did he did a really good one with DHH again, about how they built up Basecamp 3. Really interesting. Right. Yeah, really. Them two, you know, it's really great. And it was nice when we had him on the show as well, you know, to talk about like full stack and things. It's really interesting, like how, you know, he's able to kind of get these guests on and talk really good. Like, I still don't know how he does it on his own solo.
Well, yeah. Although you're becoming quite the pro these days, so
yeah,
nowhere near as good as him.
But yeah, I don't want to say the phrase New Year's resolution, but it's not a New Year's resolution. But in general, I want to push myself a lot more this year, especially with this opportunity now where I can kind of do things the way that I want to do it. I do want to push myself, and I do definitely see, for me, like if you would say, what do you think will be the biggest change in the web this year? Whilst it's been around for a long time, I definitely think if you look at like the presentation layer now, I think that this year will be huge with things like React, and I think Angular's pretty in the past now, but definitely that
Angular
side
2
of things.
isn't though. Angular, you know, I think we can learn a lot from Angular 2. I think, you know, Angular 2 is kind of getting a lot of the React stuff, and, you know, learning from each of them. You know, I mean, React Router is inspired by Ember's router because of how good Ember's router was. So, you know, I think it's good that we share, you know, all these different.
Yeah.
But that's actually a good question, actually. Like, what are your I hate New Year's resolutions as well, but like, what do you want to do this year in the tech kind of world? You're like, what do you want to learn? Or that, you know, you're saying you want, like, you feel the presentation there. Is there any technologies on top of like React and things like that you want to kind of look into?
Do you know what? Like, I really want to but I want to learn more about sysadmin. I really want to get more clued up on that, because at the minute I would say I'm confident enough that I can, I don't know, Google stuff and do stuff that I need to do, but again, not really understanding why stuff's doing what it's doing. So for me, that I was even looking at, like, there's linuxacademy.com, which I don't think is a free service, but that sort of thing I would like to do.
Well, that's it, especially when you're doing the freelance stuff now. I suppose you're then going to have to deal with the sysadmin stuff, and you feel like you've got a duty to really, you know, look after, you know, the servers, etc. like that. You can't
things
take
like
it for
SQL
granted.
backups, all that kind of stuff. I really want to get clued up on. Yeah, definitely.
That's good. How about you, Lou?
Most of my things this year are based around JavaScript. I think I've really enjoyed using like Browserify recently and stuff like that. And I don't know enough about ES 2015, which I want to learn more about, and React, as you say. And I think I just, for me, that's where a lot of the challenges are, becoming a really, really competent JavaScript developer.
Yeah.
And other than that, sort of unit testing, becoming more active with all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, those two are probably going to take up a lot of the year, but most of my targets are front end based now, really.
Yeah, it's funny how it's all transitioned, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because I mean, mine's exactly the same, where it's JavaScript based. You know, Clojure. I mean, the reason why I'm kind of learning Clojure is really for the back end, kind of learning a Lisp is really interesting, things like that. But also kind of the work that, because it was on a Functional Geekery podcast, Stephen Proctor again, where he talked to David Nolan, and he's the guy behind Ohm and Ohm Next, and he's the Clojure script guy. And Clojure script is Clojure for JavaScript, like it compiles down into JavaScript. So instead of being a platform on the JVM platform, it's for the JavaScript platform. And kind of very interesting, like things where he's taken a lot of things from like Relay and Falcon and all these kind of different technologies, Reacts and stuff like that. But those are the things where it's interesting, because with JavaScript now you can compile down. These transpilers, the idea of having a transpiler in other languages, say like PHP, you don't really have like the idea of, okay, well, before I can run this, I need to transpile it, so you don't, but in the world of JavaScript, it's become kind of acceptable to have like the Babel layer and things like that, or this transformation layer. So, we have all these other languages, where JavaScript is literally just a delivery language, the assembly, essentially, even though we're going to get WebAssembly, it's assembly for other languages such as ClojureScript and such as PureScript and TypeScript and all these other languages that are, supersets of JavaScript, or completely different, actually, I should really say. Like TypeScript's a superset of JavaScript, but, these other languages. So
you use Webpack, don't you, instead of Browserify?
Yes, yeah.
So, have you used Browserify?
I haven't. That's another thing, really. I should start looking into all these other technologies, because we use Webpack at work, and I really love it. I really find it interesting and stuff. Loading code, really, kind of being able to, hot it's kind of like hot development, similar to like Erlang does hot swapping code, and things like that. And it's brilliant for like dependency, kind of splitting up module dependencies and things. But I'm sure Browserify can do things like that, and it's
that's what I was keen to see what the differences are. Yeah, Browserify, does exactly that.
See, that's great. I mean, this is the thing. I think that again is like, I think JavaScript is going to be the main thing this year. But I want to put a sprinkle of code, because I know I was actually thinking back to the episode me and you, Mickey, did last, I think it was Christmas Eve, actually. And I was talking about, I want to get into Clojure. And this year I really never really did it until the end of play, kind of at the end of the year. Now I'm finally looking into it and loving it.
I am really rambling today, I'm sorry, but I think we're all in agreement that JavaScript is going to be the big thing this year. Not like it's this new thing.
I think I think it's just going to carry on being the big thing, isn't it? Really, yes. I think it's I think there's so much, and people expect these UIs now to be like this, and they expect it to be able to be like an app experience, and the only way of doing that is by using JavaScript. It's
the only thing we've really got at our disposal, but. I was going to say as well, obviously...
Unless you want to go back to Flash or Java applets.
Which I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there we go. But, I would just say, with my own experience in the last few months, is for anyone who's like in full-time employment as a developer at the minute, who's just sort of doing the same stuff day in, day out, don't rest on your laurels, because my experience when I was started looking at the job market again was that no one's looking for PHP developers. They're looking for full-stack developers.
Yeah.
At the very least, they're looking for people who are brilliant.
Yeah.
And that really hit me, because I certainly wasn't, to be honest with you. I'll be deadly honest. I think I think I am an okay PHP developer, but I definitely am a long way from calling myself a full stack developer. So that will be my real sort of push this year to kind of get myself back up to that level. But I would just say that's a word of warning to people, because I think the job market has changed. Like for me, like when I first started looking for jobs, when you could get a job as a PHP developer, I think they're few and far between now, to be honest with you. So that's my word of caution.
A lot of other things you see when you look at that stuff is using web services. So I see that. So that's another, like this year, like there's so many different things. Like I haven't really used the Amazon S3, haven't used that much. There's getting good at using the Twitter API. There's all those kind of things.
Understanding API technologies, isn't it?
Exactly.
Like
working with those.
Like that,
being asked to implement something third party and being able to roll with it.
I think that's it. As you say, like, because all these APIs are springing about and people want this interconnected kind of world. Yeah, you have to really deal with that and handle all these different APIs. And actually, speaking about that, is there was a really good blog post going around our so we kind of have like a little in our hip chat at work, and it was choosing a HTTP status code, because I know that status codes become, it's like, what do they mean, and all this, and is it any, why is it 400 or why is that a 500? And it's interesting that they do have meaning, like each band has a meaning, and it's funny where this actually, I'll put it in the show notes. It has a kind of you know, I don't know what they're called, decision trees, where, you know, it's like, which response class is there a problem with the request? Yes or no? And if it's no, is there a problem with the server? Yes. Oh, that's a 500 response. Or am I implementing the server? Yes, I need to use a 100 or I need to use a 200. And it goes into all these, and it really does go into each individual one. And it's very interesting. And I really recommend, actually, like, when you're deciding on a code to use, because codes mean things. You know, I know we have the 200s and we have the 500s and we have 404 and things like that, and we've been very much kind of that's it. But the API RESTful, you know, way does state, and you take advantage of it, that you want to use the right status codes, and this will let you, you know, this will give you kind of a nice help thinking, okay, right, that means I really should use that, and it shows the intent, you know, because it allows them to in a you know, standardized format, you've now given the intent to the user when they get that response what's happened, as opposed to them having to maybe crawl through a response. Maybe it's a 200 all the time, and it's like, oh yeah, it's now a JSON response body that has status created in or something, as opposed to instead really what you want to use the 201, you know, status code, because that's what created means. It's like, oh yeah, 201. So no, that's me just rambling on that, but yeah, API stuff is definitely important.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Cool.
I think, I think so.
Everything. I think we've covered everything. Yeah, I mean, this year will be another year of 3 devs and a maybe for sure. It's crazy to think we've actually done since 2013. It's like October 2013. Yeah, that was our first episode. It's insane. And we may, and I think we probably will actually definitely hit the 200, not 200 mark. So yeah, the 200. We're getting well over the 100 episode mark, which would be quite cool. I'm looking forward to that.
What are we on at the minute? Sorry.
We are at. Why are you putting me on the spot here, bud?
83.
83, yes. 83. Wow. So this will be the 84th. We have another 85th. We have an 85th episode in the bag that I need to just release. And Wow. 15 episodes.
2 to 4, eh?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right, well, who wants to sign off? Who wants to say the goodbye remarks?
Lou?
Yeah,
goodbye.
I thought Lou.
Goodbye.
Good answer.
Climax.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to come up with something, you know, witty and so, you know, the typical Lou response.
It's the first Monday back after the Christmas holiday. You got to build up to that.
That's true. All right then, audience. Well, it's been great talking to you.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Happy Christmas, and all that. And yeah, speak to you next episode. All right then.
Cheers.
Bye.
You've been listening to 3 Devs and a Maybe. You can contact us at contact@3devsandamaybe.com. Or follow us on Twitter at 3devs and a maybe.